the breakups where he goes, I need to stop talking to you because we need to make it halal, right? And then that goes on for 3 days. Whatever you do, do it properly. You need to stop talking to her properly, right? That means block her number if you have to. Never marry a fixer-upper. You might be attracted to something, but it's not necessarily what you want to see when that's yours and that's representing you. You might not want that, cuz whether you like it or not, that is a reflection of you, and that is what's going to raise your children. Not everything you're attracted to is what you want raising your children. Over here, fundamentally, she's not for you.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm here with Sheikh Farhan today, and it's truly an honor. Jazakallah khair for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor being here with the brothers at the Strangest studio. May I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless everyone who's watching and everyone who's involved, Ya Rab.
Ameen, ameen. May Allah bless you and reward you.
Ameen, Ya Rab.
How's the drive down? You've come down from Sydney?
This is probably the easiest drive that I've had.
Yeah?
Yeah, and usually it's much more difficult. Alhamdulillah, no fines on the way so far. So it's got to be,
Check your mailbox when you get back.
Don't. La qaddar Allah. But subhanAllah, it's weird because I was on 3 hours of sleep as I was driving down.
Wow.
Because the night before I was preparing some lessons.
Khalas, inshallah, today we'll speak about your journey a little bit, growing up in Australia, and then we'll get into, inshallah, some of the issues that we face as young people. I'd like to think young people in Australia.
That ship is slowly sailing, boys.
just watching it go away in the distance. Allah understand. So tell me, inshallah, like you were born in Fiji, and then you came to Australia at a young age. So just tell me about your early years. And I always like to start these with kind of telling us a bit about 12-year-old, 15-year-old Farhan.
Look, I had a not so usual upbringing, because my father is a graduate of the Islamic University of Madinah also.
Allah barik.
So subhanallah, I was born in Fiji. 4 years after, my family moved from Fiji to Australia, to Sydney, the capital of Australia.
You're going to go there?
Yeah, we're going to go there, bro. We got to do it. This place is too cold. Amjad, fair enough. It's just too cold.
Actually, it's very cold.
It's freezing. Anyways, so from a young age, I got I'm the youngest in my family, and my father was always somewhat involved with da'wah, and he wasn't very forceful in anything. So like me studying in Medina was not really even a conversation that we had growing up.
And I'm going to get straight into kind of the issues that young people are facing, and we'll go into social media. And subhanallah, social media in this day and age, it's a big mushkila. You know, it can be used for good, but vast majority of the time it's used for evil. I want to speak about the issue of people kind of sliding into the DMs. You know what I mean? Like I'm speaking to sisters on social media under the guise of I want to speak to her for marriage, and everything that can come out of that. So what's your advice to someone who feels like that's the only way for them to kind of go and get married in this day and age? I have to, like, how else am I going to get to know her and this and that?
So you've made it the only way because you've convinced yourself that's the only way. Sometimes, subhanallah, when we're fueled by our lusts and our desires, we will convince ourselves of whatever we need to convince ourselves. It's something like, this is the only way that I can do it. That's what you've told yourself, that's what you've convinced yourself, and that's why it's going to happen. Now, subhanallah, it's one of the problems. Let's just put it out blanketly, This is a problem that the youth have faced, and like one time or another, someone has done it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has protected them from being exposed early on. You know what I mean? It's like a stumbling block that someone kind of like on social media goes through. But obviously we know that this is haram. This is not permissible, right? The most you could probably do is, hey, can I get your dad's number? Do you know what I mean? Or like, that's pretty much, that's all I can see as being permissible. But something that's important genuinely is, firstly, we have to understand the framework that the Sharia gives us. And the rights, what's halal and what's haram, right? The boundaries that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set forth. Now, first premise is that you're not allowed to speak to someone who's not your mahram unless for very certain and restricted issues or things that there might be.
One-on-one, يعني.
One-on-one is something that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
One-on-one.
Yeah.
يعني even if it's 2-on-1, 3-on-1, if there's inappropriateness that's going on, you could be flirting with someone, يعني, and you're in a group with boys and you're just trying to chat girls up.
لا قصدي يعني I mean with her father or with her brother or something.
Yeah,
in a
100%, right.
Yeah.
If something that is like, because look, let's just be honest, right? When we're talking about this, we're talking about right now you see a girl and you are interested.
Yeah.
The first thing that goes into your mind is I want to go talk to her.
Yeah.
Right? And the approach should be I need to get in contact with your family. Right? So I need you, and it shouldn't be more than that. And if it works, it works. It doesn't work, doesn't work. قدر الله ما شاء فعل. But I genuinely think this issue of sliding in the DMs, one thing that I want to remind the brothers specifically is if you do it one too many times, I promise you by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala you're going to get exposed.
Subhanallah.
Right? We have the famous story of Umar radiallahu an when he found the person who was stealing. And when he was caught, khalas, now it's hands gone skis. Right? So he says to Umar, he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's my first time. Umar says, you're a liar, but Allah does not expose a person on his first time. Now, subhanAllah, this is something that I genuinely think is like going to happen if you're running amok on social media. Right? One day or another, you're going to get exposed. And especially now with all these like things that are happening with people getting exposed online and the da'wah bros and what have you, it's a very big problem. And I genuinely think there's no reason for a brother to directly message a sister in any way, shape or form on social media. I can't see a reason why you have to be the guy to tell her whatever you need to tell her.
Tell her to cover up.
Tell her to cover up. Like, Habibi, like, bro, she's not going to listen to you anyway. Let's just be honest, right? There's no reason you have to be that guy to do it. There's a million other ways. Get your sister to message or something. I don't know. But there's no reason why a brother needs to message a sister on the DMs, right? And there's no real reason. Now, subhanAllah, something that's like as mashayikh or students of knowledge, we have a lot of messages that are sent to us, right? And I think the way that this should be dealt is very, very specific. One, especially with the da'wah bros and what have you, the account should never be like just one person runs the account. There should be multiple people running an account.
Okay.
That's one, like you have to put these safety measures in place.
Yeah.
Another thing is that the tone of communication should be dry as hell. Like, Assalamu alaikum, is this permissible? Can't see the permissibility for you. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, would you share that advice with people who have normal pages, normal accounts? Give someone your login?
Yeah, if that works, give someone your login, because three things will happen. One, your search history will be apparent to everyone.
Yeah.
Your For You page will be evident to everyone. And your activity that you do will be evident to everyone. So I genuinely think keep these balances there, because what do you have to hide? What do you have to hide? A Muslim should not genuinely have things to hide. But the problem is that if you do that, then you just create a fake account, and then you create another account, and then you create another account. It's like this never-ending spiral. But this is something that we really have to look at. Social media usage, one of the biggest problems is sliding into DMs. And the problem is there's harm from both sides, because some girls, they want it or they like it or they're putting up things for it. And we can't, we're not going to hide behind the rock. And there are brothers who are actively seeking it. And this is one of the biggest problems that we face. And then they complain later, we can't get married because our parents say no. Or, he did this to me, he mistreated me. Or she did this to me, she was cheating on me. We have all of these problems. How did it start? Why are you so desperate to marry this girl? Why are you so desperate to marry? These people that come up and complain, Sheikh, the dad saying no. Khalas, move on, cuz. Move on.
Just like that, yeah.
Just move on, bro. You shouldn't have invested a dog in the fight. You know what I mean? Like, why do you want her so bad? You know her for like a month, cuz. What's wrong with you?
Yes.
Right? You have led yourself to do something to get invested in this way. So what did you do? I want to know. right? How did you get here? Why do you want this so bad? If the guy goes, oh, I really see a future with her, you've been looking at her picture for too long, you need to lower your gaze, you monkey. Right? What's something is wrong. So subhanallah, a lot of the times with this issue, the causes of it and the way where it leads to is usually a problem. Is usually going to end up in a problem. It's going to be a musibah. It's going to be a really chaotic situation later on. So there's nothing that good that can come from it. It's just either sin or misery or heartbreak and what have you. So be very, very careful of these types of issues. We ask Allah for His protection, Ya Rab.
Ameen. And there'll be someone listening to this who's currently in a situation where they're speaking to someone and they've started in haram and now they want to make it halal. What's the advice to those people? Do they go to the father now, or do they stop speaking to her and hope that somehow they're reunited and something? They say, oh, if we find each other, we find each other.
We as a community love Romeo and Juliet.
We do.
But if only they finish the story, it's actually a tragedy. It's not a good story. It's not.
But there's an issue where a lot of people they'll speak to the sister. They'll say, okay, can I speak to your father? And she'll say, oh, but I just want to get to know you a little bit first.
That is a red flag.
Yeah, red flag. Okay.
That is the biggest red flag. Bruv, she might have said that to 3 other guys before you today.
Yeah. Today is crazy. Subhanallah. And what about...
red flag.
So what about if someone's in that situation now where they say, all right, like, khalas, okay, I've stuffed up, I've, spoken to this sister. Yeah. What do I do now?
First, foremost, you need to cut. You need to stop. Because the first thing that you need to do when it comes to tawbah is stopping the sin. Right? And a firm conviction of not returning to the sin, meaning talking to her in haram. And then something that needs to be there needs to be regret. Because if you don't regret it, it's something that's almost useless. Right? So you are falling with every text message, with every letter that you say, it's going to be counted against you. This is a sin. And this is a zina of the tongue, and it's a zina of the eyes, it's a zina of the hands. Everything is involved over here, right? So this is a very, 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 very big problem. So now you got to stop the sin. Then if you're serious about marrying her, right, then you contact the father. And I think that you should start off with, I want to get married to your daughter. Now, do you tell the full truth or not the full truth? Time will slowly tell you, right? If you're now, you've forgotten that and you've finished that and you've asked Allah to forgive you, at this time you're not necessarily in a thing that you have to expose your sins, right? Because it's still exposing your sins. So you want to marry this girl. So you go up to the father, 1, 2, and 3, I want to get married to her. Now, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for you. If that door shuts in your face, move on, walk on, and don't do this again, and ask Allah to forgive you, ask Allah to make it easy for you. And perhaps the heartbreak that you're feeling right now is a consequence of your sin, and inshallah, maybe the pain that you feel will cover up for that which you've gone through from the sin, right? Because sometimes that feeling itself, the sadness that you feel, could be a means of expiating a sin. Could be.
Punishment in this world.
Punishment in this world instead of the next, right? So, but the main essence of this is, stop it right now. Stop it right. Not even, I honestly, these, the breakups where he goes, I need to stop talking to you because we need to make it halal, right? And then that goes on for 3 days. And then, no, I'll contact your dad, and then no, but my dad, and then it goes on for another 2 days. And then, throughout the process, it's just constantly going. It's just, no. وَإِذَا قَتَلْتُمْ فَأَحْسِنُوا الْقِتْلَ. If you kill something, then kill it properly. Right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. Perfection in everything Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done. Whatever you do it properly. You need to stop talking to her properly. Right? That means block her number if you have to. That means delete your social media if it has to. Get rid of it. Don't fall back into the same sin. Say, I'm going to be contacting your father. Assalamu alaikum. End the story. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And I really like what you said about just moving on. Because everything in Hollywood tells you to fight for her or ما بعرف إيش and this and that. But in reality, if the beginning is hardship, then the middle will probably be hardship and the end will probably be hardship.
Look, if 2 people make tawbah, then there is still a chance. There is still a chance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can bless this union and still make it happen. But it needs to be true tawbah. Like you have you have stopped and violated and you have done something that's haram. Call a spade, right? Now, is it possible for two people to get married still? Yeah. I've seen it happen, right? But is it something that's gonna come without any problems? No. Now, let me give you a hypothetical. If two people are talking in haram and they want to get married, and let's just say during the process they go contact the father, they do all that, and the dad starts asking, and then they get found out that they were talking during this process, right? To get that trust back of the family, even if you get married, to get like the family to be comfortable with you, even if you get married, is still going to be, because once you get married, you're not just getting married to the girl. There's in-laws, there's brothers, there's sisters, there's parents, there's uncles, there's aunties, there's extended family you're getting into as well. Now, when they find out that you've already lost, you've made your marriage is already hard, but you've made that so much harder. And so now you have to win the dad, and you have to win the mum, and you have to win everyone over, and you have to, it's a process, right? But it's still possible, but you've just made marriage 15 times harder, right? So obviously these things are written by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what have you, but you have to stay away from sin, because sin only has bad consequences. Now, when can it work and inshallah everything is good, is when both of you ask Allah for forgiveness and then work your way back up to making everything correct, inshallah.
Inshallah. Khalas, we'll move on, inshallah, from the issue of haram relationships into marriage. And I want to speak about once people are actually in the marriage, and the kind of the relationship between men and women in the West in a society where toxic masculinity is kind of the catchphrase that's thrown around, and feminism's obviously on the rise as well. So how do you deal with, and if you're a husband and your wife is of that mindset where you can't tell me what to do and this and that, and even if you're speaking to someone in a halal way, and you start to see these signs in them, whether as a man you see the woman is not submissive in any kind of way, or as a woman you see a man is abusive in any kind of way, how do you deal with these situations and these red flags?
Look, there are some red flags that are just straight away run, right? If you sense that the man is a bakhil, right, that this guy is a cheapo, in the sense where, not like, oh, he doesn't want to pay for a 30 grand wedding. No, you need to slap yourself out in the face, right? No, we're talking about like, this guy, he brought water over and he wants me to pay $3. You know what I mean? Like, there's a problem with this, if you sense that the person's a bakhil, right? What do? That's like a straight red flag, run, right? If you can sense that this person does not fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's telling you to do something that's haram, run, right? He's like, oh, give me your number, we'll talk on the side, right? Over here, just no, red flag, right? Something that I really want to talk about, something that's really important, is there this concept of masculinity that's toxic to begin with in the Muslim community? And without a shadow of a doubt there is, right? We have brothers who are married who do not do that which is permissible and that which is obligatory under the guise of I'm a man. So for instance, a lady's wealth is her wealth. You can't touch her wealth, right? She can give it to you, she can help you out with it, but you're not entitled to it. So for instance, like, let's just say she's on welfare, right? Kids are getting Centrelink money. The kids were going to get Centrelink money, ghasban annak, whether you like it or not. They were going to get the money, right? It's nothing to do with you. You're not the factor why they're giving money. They're giving money for the children. But there are so many cases where it's like, oh, I don't need to give you money anymore because you're getting money from Centrelink. Make that make sense to me, right? You still have to provide for your children and your wife, regardless if they have money or not. Regardless, you just got to do what you got to do. That's your responsibility as a man. So, what I would define toxic masculinity in the Islamic community is not performing the obligations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told you to perform in the correct way. So, for me, part of this is not being a proper provider. Part of this is thinking that you can get away with running amok on your wife, right? Cheating and what have you. These are things that are happening and they're widespread, unfortunately. And the opposite side of the spectrum is toxic femininity, right? That is a thing, which is not doing that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered from you towards your husband. And there are like so many shades of this one, right? And we can see it because we're men. Now, running amok. But it's a very big problem, right? And I genuinely think from both sides, one of the main things that's missing is that we need to come back to fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. We need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. Because if we feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly, this is not going to be an issue. If you were really scared that Allah is going to ask me about this, I need to pull up. You are not going to be worried about this. Right? There's not going to be an issue. Right? This thing is not going to come up, toxic masculinity. That's not a thing. Because I'm more worried about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to do what I do, whether I like it or not, because Allah is requiring this from me. And I think that's what's missing within our circles. So coming back to this thing of what happens if you sense the vibe of toxic masculinity, of feminazi, whatever you're feeling, right? How do you deal with it? Something is that if you see something that you think you can handle and change. If you see something, like for instance, she is coming up with, a guy goes over to meet a sister with presence of the wali, everything's halal. And she starts saying, I want to, for instance, work, and I'm not going to be really doing much of the house worries. We were both working, so we need to both share this, right? Responsibility. Now, there are two types of men. Or let's just say there's more types of men. But like, one person will be like, look, housework isn't that important for me, right? I don't really care. I can do that as well. As long as she has a halal job, right, that doesn't encroach on the laws of Sharia, khalas, she can work and I can work and we'll split the house chores equally. Okay? Now the other guy is like, no, I'd rather you stay at home. Right? I'd rather you stay at home. I want to provide for you everything. Then know that there's going to be a fundamental rift over here. Right? She wants to have a halal job. She wants to provide for herself. She doesn't want to be completely dependent, whatever the case may be. Now over here, you know that this is something that you fundamentally, it's going to burn you every day. It's going to burn you. Why are you getting ready for outside to go to your work, right? Let's just say she's in niqab and everything, and she goes and she works with women and no dramas, no ikhtilat, no dealing with the opposite gender, what have you. It burns you. As you want your wife to stay at home, take care of your things at home, take care of the duties at home. You want to come back to a meal, you want to come back to... Over here, fundamentally, she's not for you. I genuinely think this, right? There's just too much of you're going to go through a drama every day that's going to make you miserable. Khalas, bro, just move on. Right? So over here, know what you want. When I tell brothers when they're looking for marriage, I tell them, look at your non-negotiables. Absolute fundamental. If she, for instance, wears tight clothing outside, for me, this is absolutely non-negotiable. It's a red flag. And when I say red flag, I mean the stop sign, how it's like 3 seconds, you have to stop. You can't move on, you're getting a fine. What's the fine in Melbourne for a no stop? I haven't. You haven't copped it? 350? Khalas. Wow, that's
our cameraman's copped it.
He's copped it a couple times, it looks like. It's more.
He said it quick.
Oh, okay.
He must have run two stop signs.
Now imagine it's a $200 fine for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
For 3 seconds, right? You didn't stop for 3 seconds. If you don't stop with this one, which is like a red flag for you and your non-negotiables, it's going to make you miserable every single day of your life. Right? If you have, for instance, one of your non-negotiables, I don't want my wife to talk to women. Talk to men. Right? I don't want my wife to talk to men.
Yeah.
Right? That's like your non-negotiable. Right? Like, I don't want her to have unnecessary conversations. Like, she should not be like happy and approachable, right? For men to talk to, and then she entertains it. For you, that's a non-negotiable. Now you know that this girl in front of you, you've gone out with the family, and she's talking to the waiter, and she's like going about, and there's back and fro. For you, that's a big red flag. You're gonna be miserable, my guy. Let's move on. For you, you want someone that doesn't work, right? Non-negotiable. Khalas. Then every time she goes to work, it's gonna be miserable for you. You need to know what your absolute fundamental non-negotiables are. If it's for instance, and you can't be blamed for your non-negotiables, right? You can be too much and you can be too little, but as long as within halal, right? But when I say you can be too much, like for instance, a non-negotiable for you might be, I want my wife to wear niqab, right? Now, why I say you can't be blamed for that is when you go up to someone and say, this is what I require, right? You can't force her to do it, and you need to be ready to move on and skedaddle when it doesn't work out for you.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you want to go to Umrah? Well, you're in luck, because the Strangest Studio and Preston Mosque are partnering with Al Ghurabat Travel to take a group in September with Ustad Yahya Rabi and Ustad Thamir Musallim. Now, I know you're probably wondering, how much is it going to cost? Am I going to be able to pay it off in one go? Well, it's okay. Just get in touch with us, inshallah, and we'll give you all the information. But just know it's going to be an absolutely amazing time. Bullet trains, 5-star hotels, 5-star airline, quad biking, all the activities, the leadership, the reminders, everything that you could possibly need, inshallah, all in the one trip. Can't wait to see you there. Yeah, I want to follow up on that. A lot of brothers, they'll say she's working on it. Or she'll say it's a project.
Look, it depends. I have a principle, a qaida, right? Might get me in trouble. Never marry a fixer-upper. Right? And what I mean by this, but there's hudud to this, there's limits to this, right? A girl's not wearing any hijab. She's wearing no clothes, like barely dressed, right? And you're like, I want to make her into a niqabi. Relax. Relax. Right? It's not going to go well for you, brother. Like, I'm sorry. Like, there's too much of a divide here. But someone who's wearing complete jilbab, someone who's wearing loose clothes, and someone says, I am open to wearing niqab, right? Khalas. Now you have a bit of a hope. That's something that we can work with. For instance, someone says, يعني, I'm working now, and I'm open to not working if our financial status or whatever, يعني, if we can make ends meet, and my job doesn't require anything haram, blah, blah, blah. Over here, it's a different to, I don't want to stop working. Who are you to tell me to not work? Never marry a fixer-upper. Khalas, just no, right? Because it's too much of a divide on the spectrum, and it's just, you guys are not on the same wavelengths. If you're not on the same wavelengths, it's going to be too much of a musibah. It's going to be too much of a problem. So over here, يعني, she's working on it. Where is she starting from, and where is the end goal?
I'll be real, like most brothers these days are looking for, you know, like brothers that I know, looking for sisters that, you know, wear abaya and stuff like that. But then someone will catch their eye who maybe doesn't wear the hijab properly, but wears the hijab but wears pants, or wears the hijab but leaves the neck a little bit, you know, missing a pin, she forgot it at home, you know. So
very attentive, this brother.
Huh? So then they go into, so it's a kind of in between the two that you spoke about.
I need you to understand something, yeah? And the brothers don't understand this when they're young. You are attracted to something and you want to marry something.
Two different things.
They might not be the same thing. You might be attracted to something, but it's not necessarily what you want to see when that's yours, and that's when that's representing you. You might not want that, cuz.
Representing you is a very, very crucial point. I think people don't realize.
You don't understand. يعني, whether you like it or not, that is a reflection of you, and that is what's going to raise your children. Not everything you're attracted to is what you want raising your children. Let's call it facts. It's an unpopular opinion, but we just got to say it, right? So you need to understand that that's not the attraction is not the way to go when you are looking for a wife. Because you are going to think from something that's not your brain. And you're going to make a mistake. And يعني, the brothers who get married young, they make a mistake with this. They lead by attraction. Oh, she's got deen, she prays. Yeah, but like every other non-negotiable is gonskis. Right? She doesn't dress the way that you want. She doesn't, يعني, all of the other things, right?
Comfortable with men.
Comfortable with the opposite gender. When it comes to, like, for instance, perfume. When it comes to tabarruj. When it comes to what other non-negotiables, work, when it comes to financials, when it comes to like the expectations, all of these things, right? Nothing aligns, but you think she's pretty.
Yeah, subhanallah. When you put it like that, it's like you're 7-1 down.
You're right now, you're not going to go somewhere that's very far. Right? And we wonder, why didn't it work? Like, guys, it's really Sherlock Holmes? Really? Like, you really want me to break this down for you? It doesn't take a rocket science to figure this out, right? But when you're young, she's so beautiful, right? She's so beautiful. It's, okay, she is, but she might not be for you, right? So something that's very important is that we really, really got to understand that we have to focus on that which is important. And that which is important is not necessarily beauty. So that's something that's very, very, very important.
I remember when we said we'll leave the marriage for the Hot Topics episode.
No, look, these are important concepts.
These are very important, yeah.
I think especially for the youth, because they don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah,
right?
صح.
And unfortunately, like our parents, they came from ages usually that it was more like completely arranged. You might meet her on the day you get married, right? A lot of like I'm first generation Australian. Like I came here when we were young, but my parents, older, and their parents older, and their parents older. But like we come from, our families, generally speaking, came from arranged marriage homes. But subhanallah, something that we really, 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 really need to focus on is we need to talk to our youth on how to navigate this. Not just like you're an idiot, you're going to Jahannam, right? How dare you? You know what I mean? No, it's these guys need to be told what to look for and how to look for it, because no one has these conversations. Like this is too, you won't hear someone saying, don't go for the hot one because in the masjid, on the pulpit, on the minbar, right? Go for someone with deen. No one will talk to the boys like that. But the boys don't understand anything else but that, right? You need to focus on something that's important. So I think this understanding of your non-negotiables, it requires introspection. You need to know yourself. Wallah. You really, really, really need to know yourself to know what you're looking for. Like, for instance, one of the biggest non-negotiables is for brothers that I put this on them, right? Are you okay with your wife putting pictures up online or videos up online of herself? Publicly, right? Is she, she has a profile that might have like 50 followers, 60 followers. Like she's just an ordinary person, right? She's not like a trendsetter or whatever. I don't know, all these guys, right? But if someone wanted to see her face, could they be, would that be possible, right? Whenever I ask the boys this, 9 times out of 10 will be impossible. No way, Sheikh. I don't want even a DP. I don't want it, right? And then it's been like, okay, see if you can go find her right now. How'd you like her? How'd you find her? I saw her picture. Where'd you see it? WhatsApp, this, that, Instagram, Facebook. It's like, okay, so you're attracted to something that you fundamentally wouldn't accept. You're the idiot now.
But Sheikh, then they want to change her. But
that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. Don't marry a complete fixer-upper. Right? So when you know that this is absolutely, or you make it completely clear. When you go in, this is my non-negotiables. Do you fit this mold? Do you want to fit this mold? Does this look appealing to you? Right? This is my absolute, what's your non-negotiables? What if she says, I want a guy who gives me $5,000 a month, right? Like like what if, right? And you're like, oh my God, $5,000. Well, do you know what I mean? Like, okay, what if it was someone is used to, like that's a doctor's daughter or something, right? She's used to getting pocket money $1,000 a week. That's her, wallah, she hasn't even thought about it. That's like a given for her in that family, right? Now you're thinking, that's a non-negotiable? Can I get a discount on the non-negotiable? But you need to know this before you get married.
Yes, how?
Right? So this concept of understand what you fundamentally will never, like this is not going to work for me. Not going to work. She has friends that are guys. Oh my God, get out of my face. Who the hell do you think you are? Right? She's really, really close friends with family friends. With her family friends and cousins, right? That she talks to her cousin on the phone at night. Like, what is going on here? For you, you know yourself that you'll never hamil that, you'll never ever bear that. So know what your lines are, draw them, and don't expect if someone you're looking at it, her social media or whatever, and you see that everyone that's commenting is a bunch of guys. Habibi, like that's too far apart. So you have to know what you are looking for, and it very, 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 very well helps if you know what she's looking for, and you need to see, do you guys fundamentally, like, are you compatible in this? If not, move on.
Yeah. Last one on this topic, inshallah.
Should have had the whole podcast on this. Started off from here, honestly. Everything before this is...
This is another one that actually recently came up. Someone was telling me this happened to them. He said he was speaking to a sister, fixer-upper, as you say, and
one second. Before I get cancelled, a girl shouldn't marry a fixer-upper either.
Yeah, of course. A guy
like a guy who's on the street today, and you, for some reason, like she wants a guy that's tatted up, but then she wants him to treat her good and respectful, and not to lower his gaze and treat her like a Khadija, and he's going to be Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It's not going to work. If he's selling bada'a, if he's selling, is a drug dealer, is this and that, don't marry a fixer-upper from the girl's side either. This is a general principle, right? Now, when I say, but like for instance, if he's praying 5 times a day, and one of your non-negotiables is, I want you to have a connection to the masjid as a sister, right? Then you are okay to, that's something that's still a given. If he's praying 5 times a day, it's a given that, you can probably pray Fajr in the masjid or Isha in the masjid. I'd love that, right? That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm saying if he's a drug dealer today, you're expecting him to be Sheikh Islam bin Taymiyyah tomorrow, you're an idiot, right? Don't expect that. Right? So don't marry a fixer-upper, goes both ways. But now, tfaddal. The guy was getting to know his sister.
Yes, he was getting to know his sister, and he saw some changes in her.
How long were they talking for?
To her. Allahu A'lam. I actually don't know the situation if they were speaking in halal or haram. Allahu A'lam. I don't know.
Yeah, these are big problems.
Yeah. Inshallah.
Husn al-dhan,
yeah. Inshallah, he was speaking to her through her father. But he began to saw changes. And then he said he wasn't sure if there were changes. The changes were for him or for Allah. And he doesn't know, because she was like this 1 minute, and he asked her to take down one photo, and she took down all her photos, and then all of a sudden he's like, wow, maybe she is, good for me, and
Look,
this happens a lot. I wouldn't be mentioning it if it was one person that this happens to. This happens all the time. We hear about it all the time. And then there's a situation, it wasn't his situation, but there are situations where 6 months later he'll come across her profile and she's got everything back up, and you know what I mean? So how do you kind of, obviously you can't see what's in her heart, but
the problem is that you're too invested. Why are you invested and you're not married to her? You want to approach a girl because you want to get married to her. Sah? It should be you want to marry her on that day.
You would marry her as she is.
You want to marry her as she is.
Wow.
Not a concept that I want to make her into something else. There are obviously some things that I'd love, right? Okay, there are things that we can improve, right? But the general beginning point, or we both have a trajectory, like for instance, we both want to be huffaz. We're both starting our hifz journey, right? Yep. But you want that, she's on the grind now. She wants to be like how you are. The changes isn't more than 10, 15, 20%. You love the person as they are, right? So if you're going and everything you want to change, right, from day dot, now, that's not, you're too invested for something's wrong, right? So over here, something that's a problem is that you're trying to fix her, right? You're trying to fix her up at this stage. Firstly, you shouldn't be that invested, right? You're trying to change her. You shouldn't be this invested. Something is wrong now from the get-go. Now, if everything matches, like for instance, the work issue is there, the dealing with men is there, the no dealing with men is there, like all the issues is hectic. And then there's this one thing that's there, right? One problem that she has. For instance, let's just say everything is good except she doesn't want to quit her work, right? But everything else, she ticks every other box. Now, either you have two options. Either you change your non-negotiable and be like, I am now going to be fundamentally okay with this. If the job is halal, I put my conditions on the job, right? Not for me to flex, but like this is what I'm going to be comfortable with. So you either change yourself or you say, hey, can we work on this? This is what I'd be comfortable. Instead of working 5 days, can you work 3 days? I'd be more comfortable. I want to see you more at home, whatever it is, right? So you can either try to bend, right? And this is only for, everything, all the boxes are there except this one box. And I think this is very, very important, but unfortunately not many people do this, right? It's like, no. And subhanAllah, the where it gets really messy is your brothers get attracted to something that they fundamentally wouldn't accept. What we mentioned before, right? You like the fact she wears makeup and she's wearing makeup outside and you like the look. But if it was your wife, you wouldn't want her to wear that outside. But she's wearing it outside now. So all of these things, this is where it gets very messy, right? Where are you okay? Where's your lines? Where's your things? And this is the conversation you need to have as an adult, as a male who's not driven by urges and by emotion and by your steam, right? This is something that's very important. And I think this is something that not many people think about and talk about. I love trying to help brothers get married, and try to navigate through these things. It's actually like, it's something that I really enjoy, because a lot of brothers, they figure themselves out on this journey, right? And I know of too many cases of people making a mistake, too many people who get into like really vicious viral cycles of bad emotions and bad relationships. And I'd love to save as many brothers as I can from that. That's a big problem. But I think that's generally the gist, inshallah.
SubhanAllah, I really like what you said about you would marry her today, because SubhanAllah, that kind of solves like a lot of what we spoke about. Yeah, like, would you marry her as she is today? Yes, no.
Yeah,
kind of tick that box and
move on.
SubhanAllah. I wanted to speak about the parents. So a lot of the times the parents, they'll make, they make the haram easy and the halal hard. So what would be your advice to parents who, the Prophet ﷺ said, if someone came to you with deen and khuluq, then allow him to marry your daughter, obviously if she approves. So if they don't follow that principle and someone comes to them and they go, he's from the wrong country, he's from the wrong this, he's from, we don't like this and this about him, he's not going to afford the 50k wedding or whatever, Bismillah.
It's a very big topic. But generally speaking, we need to stop making haram easy and halal hard. But as a community, this is like, we need to talk about things in general as a whole. We have some fundamental problems. Okay? Divorce is too taboo. Divorce is like, a word that is too scary. And parents are driven by the fear of their daughters not getting divorced. And it's a good thing, but sometimes it goes too far. Now, some things that you have to understand is that sometimes divorce has been legislated. And there's a hadith that's da'if, it's fabricated, that the worst of the halal is divorce. Where in fact, it's something that's legislated. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam even at one time was close to divorcing his wives. It's something that is legislated for a reason. That sometimes it's not going to work out. And so we need to stop treating this as being like, oh my God. Do you know what I mean? If that happens, my life is over. Relax. And there shouldn't be, there's too much of a stigma around divorcees and what have you. Now, something that's very important for the parents to know is that your responsibility is to provide your child options that are suitable. Options that are suitable. And to navigate through the options as well. Because they might be thinking that this option is good, but in reality is a retard. Right? The person there is actually, it's going to be miserable. An individual is going to cause a lot of chaos in the person's life. Now, something that's very important is understand that if you don't give in to your kids somewhat, right, on what they want to get married early, get them married early. Because if you don't, you're opening the door of shaitan for them. Right? Now, sometimes you have to get your kids what they want to get them out of haram. And your responsibility as a parent is to protect your child. And if your child makes the wrong decision, understand that that's still your child and you have to be the safety network when they come crawling back. Not, I kick a dog when it's down. I told you this is going to happen to you. No, you have to come and cradle and nurture and be there for your children when they make the wrong decision. Because, let's face it, as a youth, you're going to make wrong decisions. You're not going to, you don't have it all figured out. You don't even know yourself. Right? SubhanAllah, I think I figured myself out maybe in my late 20s. It's something that's a journey of what my even non-negotiables are. What are they? Right? You figure this out later on in life. Now, SubhanAllah, in saying that, the parents need to understand that there is a lot of issues that's there in our community, but unfortunately, those parents won't listen to us. Let's just call a spade a spade. How can I tell a parent stop being a racist muppet? You're being racist. How can I tell a parent that? Right? Now, if you know that this is the case of your parents are never going to accept someone from another culture. You know this. Then khalas, you got to either cop it on the chin. You can't really do anything about it. Changing that, all of that, and your parents hating this person, I just think it's going to be too much of a drama, and it's probably best to just toe the line. I genuinely think so, unless you're ready for a war. Right? If you know that you're ready for it, the guy's worth it, the girl's worth it, and they tick every goal that you have, everything that you have, then you fight for it. You might have to fight for it sometimes. But I genuinely think I'm all for now learning what I've learned and dealing with a lot of things. It makes life so much easier. if they are compatible on the parents are on the same wavelength, they want you to marry someone from your culture, for instance. It will make your life 50 times easier if you just kind of all right, I'll marry someone from my culture. Do you know what I mean? It will make sense. But in Australia, it's weird because like everyone around us is not our culture usually, right? We're in circles that aren't ours. But I generally think the family cohesion aspect of it, nothing's going to be awkward. Everything's just going to be chill. I know it might not be as easy and as exciting for a lot of people, right? We generally want that which is exotic to us, right? But I generally think for the cohesion and ease of life, I don't know, maybe I'm just in the time of my life where I'm just over drama, right? And I'm just like, khalas, I just want an easy life now. I just want a stress-free life as much as possible. But I think if you do marry someone that your parents want, if you can tweak it to what you want, like I want a girl who prays, I want a girl who does this, I want a certain beauty standard even, right? Or I want a guy who works this job, I want a guy who does this, I want a guy who's going to provide for me, whatever it is, right? You can tweak their preferences, but working within their frame, it makes life easier. But for instance, like if you're Pakistani, right? And the girl that you want to marry is Indian, there's still shared commonality. It's not like you're marrying an Italian dude. Right? So like if you're Somali, right? If you're from Mogadishu and she's from Somaliland, a different country, right? Then for you, there's enough shared commonality. Or Kenya, Ethiopia, right? It's not like it's a white guy. Do you get what I mean? Like, if you're let's just say the Arab ones are a bit harder, but like let's just say if you're a Lebanese, if you're from Tripoli and you want to marry someone who's a Manawi, I don't know if anyone like, you're still Lebo. Do you know what I mean? But like sometimes it might not work. Like for instance, for some reason it's like some cultures they might be too different, right? Like for instance, if you talk to a Lebanese person about an Egyptian, they'll say our cultures are completely different. Completely, the way they talk doesn't even make sense, right? So you have to navigate through this, but there is like this shared thing. So like if you're from Australia, if you married a New Zealander, it's not that big of a difference of culture. So sometimes marrying within a shared culture is going to be a bit easier for you in your life. Allahu a'lam.
Khair, inshallah. I think we'll leave it there, inshallah. We've taken enough of your time, and inshallah we'll have you back on for a Hot Topics podcast. Inshallah. I'm sure the marriage questions will probably continue. So inshallah.
Barakallahu feekum for the invite,
for joining us. Kifah couldn't be here, but he'll be here inshallah for Hot Topics podcast. So jazakumullah khair for joining us, and subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.